The road to hell is paved with good intentions. What is a real-life example of this? Tom's Shoes, a company that pledged to donate a pair of shoes to a child in need for every pair purchased. Turns out that the company's donations disrupted local shoe markets in developing countries, putting local shoemakers out of business and creating a dependency on foreign donations. Additionally, the shoes donated by Tom's were not always appropriate for the local climate or culture and were not always of the same quality as the shoes being sold. Reportedly, they have ended up in landfills. My neighbor who is supposedly getting evicted soon. Basically, she saw young drug addicts, 30-year-olds, as people she could change for the better. She'd find them somewhere and bring them home. Evidently the idea was that she could show them a warm apartment and good food, and they would realize the error of their ways and change for the better. That or a safe place to do their drugs. We had a door code so they could come in and knock on her door until she answered. It was a constant stream of strange people going in and out of her room all night long. I figured it wasn't my problem, people can do what they want if they aren't hurting anyone else. But then 3 of the men decided to take advantage of her because it's not like she could physically kick them out herself, and she wouldn't call the police. These are people who don't want to change, they like their lifestyle, and she gave them an upgrade. We are pretty sure they are doing meth in there. They come back at 1:30 a.m. and either snort something or smoke something that from the hallway smells like cat pee or paint thinner. Then they scream bloody murder, throw things, and have domestics until 11 a.m., like clockwork. Police can't actively go into the room and even people on the top floor are calling them. Landlord and management is doing his best to get them out, but that's a lengthy process. They disabled the door code, but they are still getting in. Even the girl has been taken to the hospital for overdosing a few times. Threats of murder-suicide are common. Anything not nailed down in the gym and lobby are getting trashed and stolen. Lobby bathroom is trashed constantly. Cars in the parking lot are being broken into and catalytic converters are being stolen. These men stalk around the parking lot watching people. We do have visitor rules, which are being broken. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Everyone expects to hear bullets fly anytime now. My goodwill is gone, we want her out. A man named Dr. Spock wrote a handbook for childrearing. It was widely circulated and well received. Many of our parents likely got their childrearing advice from this book. In it, he recognized that babies throw up a lot and therefore recommended newborns be laid on their stomachs to sleep. Unknowingly, this would result in the accidental smothering deaths of thousands of newborns. A huge number of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, cases can be laid at his feet. To this day, the Back to Sleep campaign is still fighting to update parents on what we now know. Newborns should sleep on their backs until they can reliably roll over for themselves. Difficult to think of a better one than prohibition and the war on drugs. Both are well-meaning. Alcohol and drugs can and do destroy lives. But banning them causes massive problems with gangs and crime to facilitate the illegal provision of things that people ultimately want. Regulation is what's needed. Once upon a time, I found a wallet on the beach. Having lost my own more than once, and not having it returned to me, I am aware that it is a stressful life event. So, my first thought was how to return it quickly. Looking through the contents, the owner was from out of state and there was no contact information other than the driver's license. Aside from that, only a few credit cards and some cash. Not knowing how long ago the owner had left, I thought let's just sit here for a while and maybe he will return looking for it since it is the first thing I would do. After a couple hours of fun and sun we needed to move on. My next best idea was to turn it into the local police station, which we found easily enough just down the street. What I thought would be a quick in and out turned into a full-on interrogation session, during which I was, at one point, accused of theft/robbery. It was a bizarre experience, to say the least, which wasted an hour of our day. Bounties for K***ling invasive animals. You have a bunch of animals you don't want, so you pay people for each animal they K***ll, usually by getting them to produce the carcass or a unique body part. People then start breeding said animal as it's easier and more lucrative than catching them in the wild. The authorities find out, and stop the bounty program. So the breeder let all their newly bred invasive animals into the wild. The situation is now worse than before. There's a famous example involving cobras in India, IRC. They also tried this with rabbits in the area I used to live as a kid. In this case, no breeding was required as the bounty drop-off point was the local police station. You'd go in with a bag of cute bunny tails. The officer on duty would count the tails and pay you for each tail. He'd then take the bag of tails round the back of the station and pop them in the dumpster. At which point, a friend of the bounty hunter would dive into the dumpster, retrieve the tails, go into the police station by the front door, and repeat the cycle with the just retrieved set of tails. On a personal scale, trying to help a really drunk person. I'm a woman and talkative, and I started talking to another woman at a bar who was really drunk. She told me her friends deserted her, so I said she could hang out with me and my friends as it was my birthday, to keep an eye on her and because she seemed fun. Then she started falling off of chairs and spilling drinks, so I encouraged her to get a cab. She started crying how everyone hates her as I was helping her outside but agreed to go home. I got a cab, paid for it because she was a mess, and all of a sudden she got really violent and ended up kicking me in the face trying to get out of the cab because she wasn't done. She pushed me and told me to fuck off, but ultimately sat back down in the cab crying. We had already exchanged numbers, so the next day, she texted me apologizing profusely and asking if we could stay friends. I told her I appreciated her apology, but no thanks. I will always try to help people where I can, but that turned me off from going above and beyond. Plus, you can rarely rationalize with really drunk and upset people. Remember to subscribe.